Hey everyone, James Lynch here doing a quick reaction video to the news that Arman Tsarukyan is going to be the backup for the Ilia Topuria-Charles Oliveira title fight next Saturday at UFC 317. And I know people watching this are going to be like, hey, we already know this. Arman announced it on his Instagram, but MMA Fighting and Damon Martin specifically went a step further and actually confirmed with other sources. So this is a legit thing. He will be the backup. And thank God the UFC is coming to their senses here. You know, we know that Arman's sort of on the blacklist from the UFC with, the whole situation that happened at UFC 311, but I mean, realistically, Arman should be fighting for the title over Charles Oliveira. He beat him last year. He should be the one next fighting Ilia Topuria. I know there was some talk about maybe Arman didn't want to fight Ilia. I'm sure if he was fighting for the title, I don't think Arman is going to turn down an opportunity against Ilia Topuria. Also, why would he agree to be the backup? What if Charles is out? He'd have to fight Topuria anyways. So I just commend the UFC for coming to their senses here. Like, I was worried they were going to sideline him or not giving him an opportunity. We've seen a number of fighters lately that have been sort of pushed to the side by the UFC, Movsar Evloev being one of them. Glad to see they're coming to their senses, and this is the right move. And I think the UFC has to look at what happened at UFC 311 and make sure they have a proper backup for a big title fight like this, because what we ended up getting at UFC 311 was Renato Moicano fighting Islam on like barely any notice, and it kind of took away all the momentum from Moicano. He ended up getting finished in the first round. I think with big fights like this, you should have a backup ready to go, because if they had someone like an Oliveira at UFC 311 as the backup for Arman and Islam, that would have been a better fight in my opinion. Nothing against Moicano. I think he's an extremely talented fighter, but imagine having to fight Islam on like no notice and you didn't even think you were going to fight him. At least now we have Arman being the backup here, and so he's prepping for both guys. So this is the right call. This is a big card. I've said this before. If you take away this title fight from UFC 317, it's not going to look like a great pay-per-view. It just isn't. I mean, this is really a top-heavy, UFC pay-per-view. You got Topuria and Oliveira. You know, some of these other fights, we've got some decent names on here. You got Apollo Costa. We've got the other title fight, by the way, between Pantoja and France, which I don't think people would be too thrilled if that was headlining UFC 317. So one hit to this card and it's not going to look so great. So this is the right move here, making sure that this title fight will go forward in case anything happens to either fighter. And like I said there, Arman going to be the backup here, which I think is great. Again, if you missed it, I already previewed this fight with Topuria and Oliveira. I'll do a full card preview on Monday talking about this card. But yeah, good for the UFC to coming to their senses. And listen, if nothing happens and the title fight proceeds as we all want it to, get Arman a fight here pretty soon. Let's get back in action here. I know there's some talk about him potentially turning down a Gamrot fight. I think it's in Arman's best interest to take whatever fight you get and keep active and get back in the title picture, because he's kind of wasting his prime right now sitting out. I know he was supposed to fight in January, but he's 28 years old, and his last fight against Oliveira was last April, so it's been more than a year since we saw him fight. I know, again, that was his problem with the whole back issue and all that, but we need to see Arman fight. He's in the prime of his career right now. We want to see him get back in there. So I want to know what you guys think in the comment section below. I don't think anyone's really going to disagree. This is a bad idea. Were you surprised that the UFC did this? I'll be honest, I am. I kind of figured they were punishing Arman for not, taking this fight. I figured Arman wasn't going to be in the picture of this at all, but glad to see they're at least giving him some leeway here and giving him the opportunity to be the backup, which I think is great. Follow me on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, @Lynch on Sports. My name is James Lynch. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.